Welcome to the Through These Gates podcast, the most rational Nebraska football show spanning across the airwaves. Well, not the airwaves, but the internet. We're not on the radio, fortunately, because I can say words like fuck and shit and piss when I'm melting down about the inevitable letdowns we're going to see this season. Kidding, trying to keep a more positive attitude than last season. I'm your host, Caleb Salvatore. We're running it back. That's right. Every Sunday, we're chiming in with post-game reactions. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, but I'm always going to try to make it fun. Before we get into this, big shout-out to our sponsors over at Firecracker Farms. Somehow, these guys managed to come up with a seasoning that combined Mediterranean sea salt, ghost pepper, Carolina Reaper, and scorpion pepper into one blend that you can put on just about any type of meat. Well, any type of meat. I'm not going to point a gun to your head and tell you can't do that. It's your money. You can put on any type of meat. It adds a little bit of extra kick, but it's not like anything crazy. When you hear those three combined, you're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be in the bathroom the entire day. It's going to be way too hot. But when it cooks in, for whatever reason, it's just this nice little added kick to it. You go to firecracker.farm. Again, that's firecracker.farm, not .com, not .net, farm. We're in Nebraska. You should know how to spell that. Use the promo code BASED, that's BASED, at checkout. You're going to save 10% on your order. BASED is after my other show, my main show. I can only get one promo code through these sponsorships. So BASED is the way to go. That's the one we got. That's the show that gets way more views. So that's what we're going to roll with. It has been a wild offseason for me. I wanted to do some offseason content, just couldn't come up with it. So we're gonna jam it all into one episode. I got a lot going on. I got my main show that's based with Caleb Salvatore. I work full time, obviously. Been hitting the gym hard, like 4 or 5 nights a week. I got a business I've started up that's starting to kick off, and it's like, oh my God, I got a lot going on. And then on top of all that, getting married this year, October 7th, not on Nebraska football game day. So no, there will not be a reaction game or a reaction video on the 8th. Maybe I'll record it the morning of the wedding because that's the Friday game. I don't know. Well, let's get into it. I wanted to do a preview with my honest predictions, my honest-to-God predictions heading into the 2023 season. 2024, if you're good. I doubt we're going to make it into 2024 because that would imply we were on a New Year's Day Bowl or the playoff. So I don't think we're going to get there. Very wishful thinking. It'd be cool if we did. Be very cool if we did. But I don't think we're going to get there. So I'm just going to go down. I'm using the website, not a sponsor, by the way. Super cool website, though. Your bosses are going to hate me because now you're going to go waste time here at work if you haven't found it already. Called playoffpredictors.com. You select the CFB 2023 tab at the top of the screen. You can pick any FBS conference you want with the exception of Independence because fuck Notre Dame. So, and you can sort it by team. You can do all kinds of stuff. So we're going to sort by Nebraska on here. That'll help me keep track of the record, conference, division, home, away, and then total. It'll be cool. All right, so let's start it off. This game Thursday. I'm concerned that a lot of people are doing what we did the last 2 years with the opening game, which, by the way, neither of them were in Lincoln, and putting too much stock into this game. I've heard a lot of people saying, well, we'll know how good we are right away after that first game on Thursday. I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think so. This is a new team, new coaching staff, new system. They're going to have to get a lot of kinks off. And usually it's nice to play like a FCS Midwest, NCAA 14 reference, or, Mississippi Delta Valley State, or somebody like that to start your season off with so you can get those kinks out and still win by a couple scores. Well, Nebraska doesn't have that luxury. In fact, they got back-to-back road opponents. One of them should be a lot easier than the other, but nonetheless, it's going to be a hostile environment in Colorado, which we'll get into in a minute. Nebraska's going to have a tough time. We are going to be thrown right into the fire, and while we may not see exactly how good this team is, this game may not be a representation of how good this team can actually be this year, so I want everyone to pump the brakes. We're going to see how they respond to adversity, because there's a chance Nebraska makes some bad mistakes early, and Minnesota capitalizes and gets up by a couple scores early on. Now, we'll see. Is this the Scott Frost, Mike Riley teams we're used to? Are they just going to get, once another team jumps out on them, are they just going to get steamrolled? Or are they going to fight back? We'll see. That'll tell us about the fortitude of this team, not necessarily the ceiling, if that makes sense to you. With that said, I'm going to go Minnesota by a couple of scores. I think Minnesota by 10 is probably a reasonable, like 34-24 Minnesota is probably reasonable. You're not walking away. If we lost by 10, 14 points to Minnesota, I'm not walking away with my head down low going, oh boy, the Matt Rule experiment has failed. This season is doomed. I don't think that happens. I think Minnesota wins by a couple scores because I think they're a more disciplined team, obviously. They've got P.J. Fleck. I know they lost Mohamed Ibrahim, Tanner Morgan, who was there for a billion years, guys like that. But P.J. Fleck always finds a way to get the most out of the least. They never have big shot recruits in Minnesota, but they always find a way to control the line of scrimmage and play disciplined football. And unfortunately, I think that might be actually our weak spot, is that defensive line. So I'm expecting Minnesota to come up and dominate the line of scrimmage, and it's just I think we'll fight back. I do not think we're going to get steamrolled, but I think Minnesota wins. So that's going to put us at 0-1. Now we're going into Colorado. Hostile environment. Colorado sucked just about as bad as you could last year, but they got a new coach. They got Deion Sanders. They got like 73 new scholarship athletes. That's a lot. That's tough. It's not basketball. You can't just bring new players in and compete after one off season, right? So that's going to be tough. Nebraska's going to have 2 extra days to prepare, to rest, because they played on Thursday the week before. Colorado, it's their first home game with Deion as a head coach, and it's against their hated, bitter rival, even though we really never hated Colorado all that much when we were in the Big 12. Old school fans get it. They were always like that little brother to us. But nonetheless, their hated rival coming to town. Coach Prime, the $5 million man, his first opponent. It is going to be a hostile environment. Colorado fans are already nuts, which you'd think like the pothead hippie granola state they wouldn't be, but whatever. So Colorado fans are already nuts. I'm expecting that game to be a riot. That's going to be a wild game. With that said, the only plus side to this on the road at Colorado, and that's 2 Power 5 opponents on the road. I don't care who it's against. Starting your season off with back-to-back Power 5 opponents on the road is never easy. Doesn't matter who you're playing. I don't care if they're playing Northwestern in Colorado. It's still back-to-back Power 5 opponents on the road. Don't take anything for granted. With that said, I think some of the rowdiness will be mitigated by the fact it's an 10 a.m. over there, a 10 a.m. game in Boulder. I think that'll at least wear some of them down because you don't have time to, I know there's the eggs and kegs thing or whatever, but you don't have time to party all day. And some of you, if you went out, if you're a college student, you probably did, the Friday night before, you're still going to be hurting. So I'm not too worried about the crowd. I think there's a lot. Deion, I don't know. Everything it seems like to me, Deion's going to be a failure. He's going to fall flat on his face because I think the Coach Prime shtick, where you're all cocky and arrogant and everything, I think that works really well when you're dominating lesser opponents at Jackson State solely based on talent. When you get up to Power 5 FBS football, you actually have to win. You actually have to have some type of strategy and chemistry, and I haven't seen anything to prove that the Colorado's going to have that this year or even next. And I think that when you're losing games, when you're going 3-9, 2-10, 1-11, 4-8, the Coach Prime shtick wears off really quick. Remember Pelini with Nebraska? The hot-headed crazy man. That was all cool and stuff. But when you're not winning, that wears off real quick. That shtick, right? Frost, another example. Just arrogant with the press. You know, the Big Ten's going to have to adjust to us. Being a smartass at Big Ten Media Day, that's all fine and dandy, being Mr. Hardass. But when you're going 3-9, 4-8 every year, that shtick wears off and it gets old. If Bill Belichick were throwing together consecutive losing seasons, which, just wait, we might see that this year, that shtick would get old too. You only earn the right to have a shtick or a persona like that as a coach when you're winning. And when Deion stops winning, it'll be interesting to see how long the Colorado fans are willing to ride with him. Or I guess when Deion starts losing, because I don't think they're going to have an easy season. They're going to get the shit kicked out of them by TCU the week before. I think Nebraska goes in and wins by a couple of scores. I don't think we're going to stomp them like everybody's saying. I think 30-17 Nebraska would be, or maybe 38-24 Nebraska would be fair. I think that would be a fair assessment there. So that, or a fair prediction there. So that puts us at 1-1, heading into our bitter rival, Northern Illinois. No, I'm kidding. They're not our bitter rival. Actually, we should kind of appreciate Northern Illinois because they are the team that got Mike Riley fired. I was at that game. I remember that Tanner Lee pick six swing pass in the goal line. I remember I was sitting in the north end zone. Yep, I was sitting in the north end zone. I remember seeing that, watching them run that back, and just thinking to myself, Riley's going to get fired. It may not happen today, but he's done. He's going to have to basically win out if he wants to keep his job. And obviously, we all know the rest is history. Well, Rocky Lombardi's their quarterback. I know it hasn't been talked about enough in Nebraska media this year. Rocky Lombardi's their quarterback. He was the Michigan State quarterback during that field goal game. I think it was like 6-9 was the final score. Nice. Again, this is one of those games where if we lose this game, it's going to be a long season. It's going to be a long season. This team didn't win a lot of games. I think they were like 3-9 last year. There's no reason we don't come in and smack the shit out of Northern Illinois. I'm going to say 38-14 Nebraska. So that puts us at 2-1, 0-1 in the conference and division. Next, we got Louisiana Tech coming. Sonny Cumbie is the head coach. Do you remember Sonny Cumbie? Some of you might remember Sonny Cumbie. As a Nebraska fan, as Nebraska fans, we should have an axe to grind with Sonny Cumbie because Sonny Cumbie was the Texas Tech quarterback in Bill Callahan's first year that beat us 70-10 and ran the score up on us. So I'm going to predict Nebraska to win 70-10. No, I do think we win. I'm going to say 42-17 Nebraska. Sonny Cumbie was the quarterback at Texas Tech when Mike Leach's team absolutely blitzed us. Does that make you feel old yet? You feel old yet? Sonny Cumbie was that guy. Ran the score up on Nebraska, Bill Callahan's first year. Remember that? So yeah, 42-17 Nebraska, or 45-17 Nebraska, excuse me. I'm gonna go easy victory there. That should probably actually be our easiest game. That's his second year. Northern Illinois, Northern Illinois put together some good teams. I don't think they're going to be one this year, but I think they're not as easy of a game as Louisiana Tech would be. Next up is Michigan. I'm gonna save you the banter here. We're not gonna beat Michigan. We're gonna lose. This is the only game. There's a lot of question marks on this schedule. Michigan is the only game I look at it and I say I'm not gonna say there's absolutely no chance. I don't see any way we win that game. I don't see it happening. So that's got us at 3-2 on the road at Illinois the day before my wedding. It'll be my rehearsal dinner, so you know what I'll be doing. Watching the game, of course, on my phone. I'm glad we did get the premiere because the next week's the bye week. Those were the two premier wedding dates in Nebraska, and we got one of them. And we didn't have the schedule at that time, so I guessed. I took an educated guess. This is what we did. They gave us the dates they had available in October because she wanted an October wedding, and I was down with that. You know, when you find someone who supports you the way Nebraska fans support a probable alcoholic and possible adulterer as head coach for years, even though he's never won anything, you stick with him, right? So they gave us the October dates. I pulled out my phone, pulled up the schedule, said, okay, bye weeks here. That one's already taken. That was a given. There was no way we were going to get that lucky. I'm like, okay, Illinois, Northwestern. So Michigan will be a later game. Or like a noon, or Michigan will probably be a later game. I was thinking if we're any good. Illinois on the road. We don't have to worry about people being at the game, so they'll come to the wedding. You know, it was all going through my head. I figured Illinois was the best shot we were going to have because she wanted that early October, late September slot. So that was the best shot we were going to have, so we went with that. I'm not optimistic about this game. And I'm going to be real with you guys. I'm not as optimistic about this season as a lot of Nebraska fans are. I will be disappointed if they don't go to a bowl game. What I'm looking for is, are we going to get steamrolled in a lot of these games? That's the big thing I'm looking for. If they can hold on and be respectable, they bought themselves another year. If they're getting steamrolled, that means Rule's got a lot more work to do than we thought. I don't expect them to get steamrolled by Illinois. Michigan, I forgot. Michigan will say like 48-17 or 48-20. Michigan, by the way. I'm not as optimistic. I think there are a lot of question marks. You lost your best player on offense in Trey Palmer. Tight end has a lot of question marks. Vokalek was a stud. Tight end's got question marks. I don't know. Fedoni looks the picture. Can he stay healthy? Borkercher, relative unknown. We don't know if Arik Gilbert's going to be on the team. Receiver, like I said, you lost Palmer. Xavier Betts was supposed to be there, and then all of a sudden he's off the team for whatever. Hopefully he figures out whatever's going on up there in his head. Billy Kemp looks like a solid slot guy, but you got to have something else. And I don't see Marcus Washington as the big play guy. Garcia Castaneda might be okay. I mean, you're basically hoping that Malachi Coleman lives up to the expectations as a true freshman, or that this Alex Bullock kid, who's been a walk-on, that the last coaching staff was full of dumbasses and missed something with him, which is a possibility. Offensive line, I looked at the depth chart today. I saw Corcoran at left tackle, Benhart at right tackle. Pray for Jeff Sims. I hope we got a couple capable backups, because Sims ain't going to play the whole season if that's what that offensive line's made up of. I don't know what's going on with Prohaska. I know he's another one that can't stay healthy. It seems like with these knee injuries, it's after the first one, it's just you're pretty much done. You get your first one in college, you're never going. They're always chasing that dragon. How many times do you hear about guys with bad knee injuries where the knock on them going toward the end of their college career or into the NFL is if they can just stay healthy, they can just keep that knee healthy, they're going to be all right. This guy will be a steal. How often do those guys actually make it? How often are they actually hits in the NFL? How often do they actually go on to have productive college careers after a couple bad knee injuries or leg injuries or whatever? I can't think of it. I'm skeptical. I think the running back room looks good. I think the defensive line does not look like it can compete in the Big Ten. I'm going to be honest with you. Linebackers look solid. Defensive backs look solid. That'll be the strength of the defense. I think, again, you're in the Big Ten. You got to control the line of scrimmage, and I don't think this defensive line is going to be capable of doing that. So I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical of Jeff Sims. I know everyone wants to read me the riot act for saying that. Go ahead, but look what he did at Georgia Tech. The last time we brought a quarterback in that had turnover issues from another school, and and all of his defenders were basically saying, well, just wait, let him get a real offensive line and a real scheme and some real receivers around him and see what he can do. That was Tanner Lee. It was the last time that happened. So I'm skeptical. I'm not writing Sims off. The coaches know more than me. I'm sure he was, when you look at the guys they got, I'm sure he was the best quarterback. And maybe he will go off. We'll see. But I'm skeptical and the reason I'm skeptical, it's not just because of what he did or didn't do at Georgia Tech. The reason I'm skeptical about Sims is because at the beginning of spring camp, Rule and co. were raving about Sims, comparing him to Vince Young. He's the most NFL-ready quarterback they've had. I mean, just on and on and on about what a great quarterback Sims was, and I was drinking the Kool-Aid too. That's toned down. They've been a lot more critical of Sims in summer camp or fall camp, and maybe that's by design to light a fire under his ass. I don't know, but I'm worried about the quarterback situation because behind Sims, we know what we've got. Because Sims, that's the best thing he's got going for him right now is he's an unknown. He's a big athletic quarterback that supposedly has really good accuracy when he's focused, but he's an unknown. The problem is we know exactly what we have behind Sims, and he has to work out or this season won't. So Illinois on the road. Brett Bielema, I get they lost their defensive coordinator. I understand that. I don't think we're going to win. I think they lost Chase Brown. They lost a couple of guys. I don't think we win on the road. This is a coin flip game. I don't think we win on the road. I think Bielema's able to keep the ball away from us because that's kind of his entire strategy. I think we just get overpowered. And that puts us at 3-3, 0-3 in the conference, 0-2 in the division, heading into the bye week, right down the middle, split the season in half. Not bad. It could be a lot worse. It has been a lot worse in the last couple years. So that puts us into the bye week. Then we get Northwestern at home. These next 4 games we have to, right after the bye week, we have to capitalize on. Now, I believe Northwestern's also coming off the bowl game, or off the bye week, excuse me. But nonetheless, this is going to be in probably a historically bad Northwestern team. The reason I believe that is because last year they were a historically bad Northwestern team, and they had their head coach, and they weren't embroiled in scandals. So they've got a guy taking over as interim. Again, an unknown. That's the best thing he's got going for him. I don't think he has any head coaching experience on any level. Maybe he coached his kid's peewee team or something one time. I don't know. I don't think this is. I think Nebraska's going to come in and stomp these guys. I think like 37-10 Nebraska, 37-14 Nebraska. I think they win that. And these next 4 games, Northwestern, Purdue, Michigan State, Maryland, are critical. That's going to basically, those are the most winnable games left, conference games. That's basically going to determine whether or not we make a bowl game. So I got us beating Northwestern. Then we go on to Purdue at home. That'll obviously be a tougher game. Again, they've got a new head coach. They lost Jeff Brom. They lost their star quarterback, Aiden O'Connell. Remember that game last year on the road? They lit us up on defense, and we lit them up too. That was a shootout. Trey Palmer went off. I think Nebraska gets the better of them. Just with the home field advantage, Purdue's got a new coach, and Nebraska has a new coach too, but let's be real. Nebraska can attract better coaches than Purdue. And the fact that O'Connell's gone, I think O'Connell was a bigger loss than Casey Thompson. I think Nebraska comes away. I think it's close, like 33-28, but I think Nebraska comes away with the win. So that puts us at 5-3, 2-3 in the conference, 2-2 in the division, heading on the road to Michigan State. Michigan State's a team with question marks. They're either up or down. It seems like there's no in between. These teams are hot and cold. I think they're going to be pretty mediocre this year. I think we lose. It's a road game off back-to-back wins. One of them's probably going to be pretty close. I think we're going to drop one. I don't think if we win all 4 of these games, I will be very impressed. I'm going to go 24-7 or 24-17 Michigan State. We got Maryland at home right after that. No bye weeks after this till week 14 after Iowa. Maryland after that at home. Tua's little brother coming to town. It's going to be close. Maryland's another one. It's a weird team. They're just sometimes they'll start off really hot. Sometimes they'll end hot. They're just always a weird team. They usually have a pretty good offense, though. So I think this game will be a bit of a challenge. It's going to require Nebraska to go blow for blow with somebody. And I'm going to make the prediction that this is the first real shootout in the Matt Rule era. And I think Nebraska's going to come out with a win. I'm going to say 48-45 Nebraska. Yeah, that's right. They proved, hey, we can win close ones, and we can win shootouts. Notice how a lot of these games, these last couple wins have been close. These last three games have been close. Purdue, Michigan State, Maryland, we're 2-1. 2 years ago, we're 0-3 there. So these are one-score games that we're winning. Next, we go on the road to Wisconsin. I'm not as high on Wisconsin as a lot. We're bowl eligible now after the Maryland game. I'm not as high on Wisconsin as a lot of other people are. I think I don't see it. They brought in Tanner Mordecai, but supposedly he struggled, and I don't know. I don't think they're going to be as good and run the tables and win the West at 10-2, 11-1, like everyone's saying. With that said, I don't think we're going to beat them on the road. I think it'll be closer than a lot of people think. I'm going to go 31-23, 34-23 Wisconsin over Nebraska. They could very easily walk into a Bill Callahan first-year situation where you've got a coach that was there for a long time running the old system that they had done forever. New guy comes in, tries to change everything, and it doesn't go according to plan. Fans turn on him quick. That could happen to Luke Fickell. Could very well happen. Remember how popular Callahan was here when they hired him? Could very well happen to Luke Fickell. That brings us into the last game of the year. Iowa at home. We got the better of them last year. This is another team. Maybe I am pessimistic. This is another team that I am very, very skeptical of. I'm not as high on them as a lot of the folks in the sports media are. I don't think that Cade McNamara is going to. I don't think Cade McNamara is going to be the big savior that everyone thinks he is. Right. With that said, this is a coin flip, man. There's a lot of coin flips. Purdue, Maryland, Michigan State, Illinois, Iowa. There's a lot of coin flips on this schedule. And here's the thing, though, and what we got to realize is, as Nebraska fans, we know these games that we're counting as wins: Colorado, Purdue, Maryland, Northwestern. These games that we're just chalking up as wins. These subpar Power 5 teams. The sports media for those schools and the optimistic fans and the podcasts for those teams, if Purdue football has I'm sure they do. Those guys are all sitting there looking at the schedule, trying to be as optimistic as possible as well, and they're checking Nebraska off as that's a game we could win. Purdue, I guarantee you, Purdue fans are if they have any still, are pulling up the schedule and looking at that and going down the list and saying, oh, Nebraska, that's a winnable game. So there's got to be some self-awareness here. The way we're looking at these teams like Purdue, like Iowa, like Maryland, like Colorado, like Michigan State, like Northwestern, as quote-unquote winnable games, they're looking at us the exact same way. Because I don't think Colorado's a coin flip, but it's far from a done deal. There are a lot of scenarios where a couple balls don't bounce your way. You get a couple calls go against you. A couple guys get hurt. Maybe a bad turnover or two. You're looking at 3-9, 4-8. There's a way that happens this season. And it's not totally out of the realm of possibility, as we know. I'm not as sold on Iowa. I think as long as they have Brian Ferentz there as the offensive coordinator, they will never reach their full potential offensively. I don't care if Cade McNamara is your savior, you've got some problems. If Cade McNamara is the answer, it's a stupid question, right? With that said, I think they get us back for last year. I mean, we spoiled the Big Ten championship for them. We beat them out on the road at their home stadium. We had absolutely nothing to play for. We had a lame duck interim head coach that everyone knew was on his way out. They went there and beat them with nothing to play for. I think they're going to get us back. I think it'll be close. 24-21 Iowa. That finishes the season at 6-6. That would put us in a bowl game. Which would be that would put us at I believe the Guaranteed Rate Bowl on December 26th, where we would play a Big 12 school. I'm going to put us up against let's see. I got us up against Baylor here. Dave Aranda and Baylor. Matt Rule's old school because it would sell, Dave Aranda was a guy a lot of people that a lot of people thought Nebraska would face or hire as a head coach last year. Didn't work out. I'm honestly kind of thankful it didn't. And I think we go in there and we beat them. I think we end on a high note. I think we win 27-24. Dave Aranda, that was the knock on his teams, was they had a lot of talent but weren't disciplined. Sound familiar? A lot of costly turnovers and penalties. I think we go in there, we beat them 24-17. I think we finish the season at 7-6, and for whatever reason, that seems like a national title to me. I don't know about you guys. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? You agree? You disagree? We were audio only this week. We'll probably do that for the foreseeable future with this show. It's just a lot easier. It makes everything work better. Plus, I know you guys aren't watching this anyway. You're just listening along. Follow, like, subscribe, share around if you're feeling generous. Follow the socials. Caleb Isn't Funny on Twitter and Instagram. CalebSalvatore.com for all your booking and merch needs. Saturday, September 9th, after the Colorado game, we are going to have the Roast Battles Beach House Bar and Grill, Omaha, Nebraska, 10:30 p.m. It's a little bit late. We got some stuff going on before it. Movie premiere for my friend David Terrell Green's new movie premiering down at the Benson Theater called One Bad Night on 56th and Lake. That starts at 8 o'clock. You get your tickets for you get your tickets there. You get them online or at the door. And if you get that, you get $5 tickets to the roast battles. Again, the roast battles doors at 10 o'clock, show at 10:30. $10 cash for the tickets on eTix and at the door. I think that's all I got. Thank you guys so much. We will see you next Sunday. No, we'll see you Friday for the post-game show because it's a Thursday game. Go Big Red. And God help us all.